Good day, my name is Jan Malan and I'm a 9th generation South African and a patriot, and that is why we are doing this recording. My forebears came to South Africa as part of the French Huguenots in 1688. I've had the privilege of being an officer in the old and the new South African Defence Force, training officers and senior officers. And for the past 25 years, I've been involved in safeguarding communities in the capital city of Pretoria, Tshwane. We come from an era where things worked. And after 29 years, we are sitting in a scenario where we feel things are not working. And therefore, as passionate and patriotic South Africans, we've had a long thought and think process to say, what can we do to change things for the better in this country? And I believe we can. And I believe if we find a new way of doing things, we can come up with better solutions and a better future for everybody. Because if we carry on doing what we've been doing up to now, we will probably end up with the same result. Now, where do we stand as we speak? You probably know that the South African Defence Force have about 77,000 troops today enrolled to fight actually our border, to protect our border and to make Africa safe. That is why we are participating in peacekeeping operations. The South African police force have about 178,000 people. They need to cover the 1,154 police stations all around the country. And obviously, if you're a policeman, you work in shifts, you've got to go on courses, you've got to have your vacations. So we can think that that net is very, very thinly spread over the country. What has happened in the security industry? If you look at the number of companies registered with CIRA, the Private Security Industry Regulatory Authority, there is more than 9,500 companies registered. 2.4 million security men and women registered with CIRA, of which about 600 to 650,000 are employed today. So just standing back from this situation, we can most clearly see what has happened in our country. And now we sit with a lot of service delivery issues, and people are unhappy about the situation. And we sat down and said, guys, what can we do to assist, to improve this scenario, to really make it the place that we want for ourselves and our children and for the future. And therefore we've come up with a total new concept and a new plan that I'm going to present to you. Our current solution to the crime problem is that we use a technique that we call sector policing. That is our national policy, and it indicates that a police station is divided in different sectors. And for each sector, the police appoint a sector commander. What I find in practice is that if you talk to a military man about a commander, you are talking about an officer. But on the ground, it is constables trying to operate sectors. And they don't have any means. The police don't give them vehicles and an area that they can deploy their vehicles, etc. They don't even have an office. Most cases, they don't have a vehicle themselves or a cell phone. On the other hand, the ward council is in very much the same position. The ward council doesn't have an office. They operate their whole ward with cell phones and WhatsApp groups, and there's no infrastructure. And surely we can do better than that. So here's the idea. First of all, let's move away from the idea of having wards and sectors different. Let's bring it to one concept that we call sector policing and ward policing, therefore, where the boundaries are the same and coincide. Then what we do is we take a ward. Now, typically in South Africa, we've got 4,477 wards. And a ward in the cities consists of about 15,000 voters that go to the polls every for 5 years to vote for a politician. But if you look at that area, you will typically find in a city that there's 7,000 households or ratepayers for that matter. And obviously all the schools and churches and the businesses and the roads and everything is there, the infrastructure. So if we take a ward as our basic building block, a ward basically consists of 4 different areas. The first sector, if you can call it that, consists of the schools and the churches. Primary and secondary schools, all the religious groupings in that. The second sector is obviously the political sector, where we have the ward councillor. The third sector would then be business. Large, medium and small business that operates from the big institutions to the man on the street being a normal one-man entrepreneur. And then the fourth sector will be community. Now, if you look at community, it is obviously all of us. But we put it in that so that we can work the model with it. So here is what we see the ideal situation. Number one, you take your schools, all the schools, primary and secondary schools, and you create a forum consisting of the school principals and the governing bodies of the school. So you get representation of the people that are working with our youth. Then you create a forum of all the religious groupings or the churches in a ward. And we find when we do these studies that there are as many as 200 and more churches in a ward. So you create a forum for the religious groups with representation from their side. And the whole idea is that the building and the facilities is not where they're drawing everybody to, it is utilizing it to work into the community. Okay? We then know that we've got the ward councillor, which is a political person being chosen by the community. But what about the traditional leadership? Where there are traditional leadership, it's pretty important to also bring them on board and give them representation. Then you create for the business community a forum for that ward where they have representation. And then in the community, on the community side of things, you take what is available. In other words, the community police forum, that's already properly organized. Although the demarcation is wrong, bring them on board. You take all your non-governmental organizations, your homeowners associations, bring them on board with representation. So what have you done now by doing that? You brought the influential people in a ward together. Now, what is needed, and this is the critical part, you cannot run anything if you don't run it on business principles. Even schools and churches and everything today runs on business principles. So what you need for that ward is to bring in the best technology available, and then to appoint a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer, and a Chief Operations Officer that can run the operations for you, and create for them a place which we call the Community Care Center, where you actually offer an office to the ward councillor and to the police sector commander, so that you join in one head for a ward. Okay. Now, you follow a certain process. And the process is to start with an audit, where you get these influential forum representatives, and you say, it is now the year, let's say 2023. Let's do an audit in our ward of what do we start with. How many houses are here? How many churches? How many schools? What is the roads situation? What is the potholes like? How many people have jobs? How much crime do we have? Is our lights working? Is our water working? So you've got a starting point. Then the next part is that the CEO takes you through a process to say in 10 years' time, when it's 2033, when our little grade ones now matriculate, what is the dream we have as a collective of where we want this ward to be in 10 years' time? Now, the mere fact that you do that exercise is what we in the military use if we have got forces that clashed and fought against each other and we've got to get reconciliation. We follow a 3-step process. Step 1 is you talk together. Step 2, you plan together. You can't plan the past, you plan the future. And then step 3, you execute together on behalf of other people. So what you get is, instead of fighting, you get a movement towards a joint vision or a joint aim. And this is exactly what you do here. Now, once you have that vision clear, you will want to use certain guidelines because you want to have a plan for job creation. And you can't have jobs if you don't have economic development. So you've got to have a plan for economic development. You've got to have a plan for safety and security. Otherwise, nobody wants to stay there. You've got to have a plan for water. You've got to have a plan for electricity, for your infrastructure. You've got to have a plan for tourism to bring people and money from abroad or outside into your area. So these plans then get structured. And the way that you do it is for every plan, you develop an aim, an objective or objectives, an action plan and a budget. That is how you prepare a plan. Now, what we would do typically in the past is we would get a consultant in to say, this is the IDP, the Integrated Development Plan of Local Government. Write it. We need something like that. And that plan is not executed by anybody. We say, no. Change the whole way you think about it. Instead of getting somebody else, we're going to make the plan. And we take the churches forum and say, guys, pastors, you come up with 5 objectives that you are going to execute in our ward. School principals, governing bodies, you working with the kids, you come up with 5 objectives and action plans that you're going to do. Government, local government, you take your 10 line functions and work out what you're going to do for this ward. Business, you take 10 objectives. Community, police forum, NGOs, you come up with 10 objectives. That gives you 40 objectives and everybody working together towards the same aim. Now, once you've written your objectives and you've come up to your action plans and your budget, how on earth are you going to finance this thing? So here's some ideas on that. Number 1, because you are now becoming the ward committee, you put your budget into the IDP and get it funded by local government because you are, after all, a ward. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, you go to the business community. You've got to do your CSI or corporate social investment funds. Bring in your funds. Don't spread it abroad and to other places. Bring it into our plans for our area. So that's another way that you can fund your plan. The third thing is you utilize legislation. Do you guys realize there is the City Improvement District Act, or the CID? Some areas call it special rated areas. Or in the city of Tshwane, we've got a bylaw that calls it the Internal Municipal Service District. That legislation says that if any area, and we are suggesting take your ward, if any area can come up with their plans and they can sell it to 75% of the owners of residential units, remember we're talking about 7,000 residential units in a ward in the cities, and 60% of the businesses, which have after all made the plan themselves, you can top up on your rates and taxes bill on the rates part up to 25%. So if you're paying 1,000 rands on a rates bill, you can voluntarily say, here's another 250, and council will then take that off 100% of the ratepayers and pay it into your own structure. And they require a non-profit company with these people becoming the directors of that non-profit company into your own trust account according to law. So there is an income. You take 100 rands a month, 100 rands a month from 7,000 people, you've got 700,000 rands to work with. And then you can go to government and say your tax incentives that you provide, can't we utilize it for this? Now, do you realize that if you have people working for you and you pay as you earn them on their salary, you can get up to 70% of that money back for training purposes. So if you have a dream in your town, in your ward, to train people with all the facilities of the churches, the schools available, and all the older people that can come and do training for young people, you can do it. There's enough and ample money to do it, to get people into jobs and start small businesses. So it's quite possible to do it. Then what is important is you don't let it just happen and see if it happens. The idea is that the CEO every 3 months will measure how far everybody is, and the group will get together. You've got 40 objectives. You get 2 minutes per objective where you present. This was our objective. This is the group that worked on it. This is all the activities that we did. These are the results that we've realized. These were the challenges, and this is what we're going to do the next 3 months. 2 minutes, sit down, that's your mark. Now, I actually saw this working in Groot Drakenstein in Nepal. That community got together and they said, let's do it. They all wanted to get 70%. They were sitting in a situation where they saw that we need to build houses. They worked out, when they did their audit, they need about 25,000 houses. They went to Department Housing, say, how many houses are you going to build in our area? No, 2,000 in the next 5 years. And what did they do? They made a plan to train people to build their own houses. So when I was there, I saw actually how this worked, and we worked it into the plan, the Valley of Abundance model, so that you can actually measure success and make sure that you arrive at the dream that you've set yourself to do. Just to conclude, this idea is not to do crime prevention or to fight crime. It is to create development, to get people into jobs, to create economic development. So we call it a national or a ward or a town development network. So the idea is that development is the focal point, and getting young entrepreneurs going is the focal point. And it's a network. We're not trying to put people above other people. It is how we network so that we get our own dream for the future that we've created by the influential people, to get that not only going, but to maintain until we reach our objective. Let's address the safety and security issue here. Because if an area is not safe, nobody wants to invest there, nobody wants to be there. People will just move away. And we all realize we've got a big problem with that. Now, I've indicated that you've got your community care centre, and that forms the hub, because there's a policeman there, the ward councillor is there, you've got your committee, that becomes the ward committee, and it also becomes an NPC, a non-profit company, but very important, it becomes your local community safety forum. That brings you into the ambit of the law. Because if you study that legislation, you will see that the idea is to address the causes of the problem. Okay, so the first thing that you will need is a proper intelligence and information network. Because if you don't have information, you will forever be reactive. Remember, the criminals choose the time, they choose the place, they choose the method. In my understanding, that means they've got total surprise. And therefore, we will always be reactive, and the criminals will be one step ahead. So your first need is to deploy a proper intelligence and information network. And that consists of two things. Number one is a network of license plate recognition cameras, artificial intelligence cameras, and pan tilt and zoom cameras in the public space, in the roads coming into your area, right inside your area, so that you've got immediate indication of where the criminals are moving. The other part of this is to get your people to give you information. In other words, create an information network, and that is why we are busy developing all the technology that every single person, man, woman, children, workers, everybody will have on their cell phone the ability to not only take a pothole or a light that's out or report crime, but be able to press a panic button. But now, if they press a panic button, what will happen? So here's the next concept. Instead of asking the police to put more vehicles, which we know there is a restraint on, the concept is to go to the security companies and say to them, on tender, you provide us with 4 vehicles for every ward. We need a vehicle with a driver, in other words, an armed officer, and a dog. We will need 6,000 kilos a month proactive patrolling in the public space, and we are prepared to pay you 85,000 rands. So there immediately you've got guaranteed vehicles, you get it from different security companies, so the competition is there. Then we go and we recruit young people between the age of 18 and 24, exactly what the police needs for police reservists. And we get the police to train these people. Put them in uniform, they don't have a vehicle, we're not worried about that. We put them in the left front seat of those 4 dedicated patrol vehicles for the ward, because we need the uniform and the expertise. Then we go to our metro police. The metro police in the cities, especially here in Tshwane, have trained 2,000 metro policemen and women, obviously, as wardens or peace officers. We saw them on bicycles, now we don't know where they are. Say, no problem, put them in uniform. You have the task of road policing, bylaw enforcement, and crime prevention. We will transport them in the vehicle. You sit at the right back in your uniform. But you bring the uniform and the capability to operate to the party. And then what we need is we need oversight to prevent bribes from being taken. So we take the civilians with the little green light patrols, say thank you very much that you are prepared to use your own diesel and petrol and your own time. What we need you to do is sit in the left back. We're going to give you a tablet. You're going to record everything where you are going. You are the civilian oversight. And then for that mobile unit, that vehicle, we put in a little tactical drone. Because you realize the problem is if criminals run away, which they always do, and they hop the first fence or they disappear into a green belt area or into high ground, they're missing forever and a day. But with the drone and the new technology operated by that policeman in that vehicle, we can make sure that no criminal will get away, and we've got a dog and 3 guns and a civilian available. And then, lastly, we put on that vehicle a mobile ANPR camera. That means wherever that vehicle is moving, every vehicle is checked along the way, coming from the front, passing you, standing in a parking space. And the minute that we see, but the police wants this vehicle, stop, 4 people can immediately take hold of that vehicle and sort it out for you. Okay, so the mobile elements is the second element, and critical because they can now operate in the public space. And remember, utilizing the City Improvement District Act, or the IMSD, Special Rated Area, we now get the right to work in the public space. So these vehicles can now operate in the public space, and they've got the police and metro police working with them. Now we say to the South African police, Guys, you have too little capacity. We understand that, we know that. We'll do the area coverage with these vehicles, 6,000 kilos times 4 per ward per month. Concentrate your force. Don't spread your force out too widely. Concentrate your force, take up a problem, sort out the problem. Same to the Metro Police. Come on guys, sort out your problem. Concentrate your force and be part of the team. Now we haven't touched the security companies. The security companies have got all the vehicles out there in a reactive profile. And we say, come on board. As part of the Eyes and Ears, the E2 campaign, where the police are working with the security companies, bring your capability. But what is our challenge here? Our challenge is that we don't have a place. So we're saying, create such a place for every city or every town if you can. We call it a joint planning and operational center, where all the information goes towards one place. We gather the data there, so that we've got a data center. Okay? Then in that data center, we can do planning and we can do operations. So what you put in the data center is the best technology, display screens. You've got a commander, an intelligence officer, an operational officer, and an air officer, because you will make that place your air traffic control center or your ATC with an ROC. That's the license that you need to be able to operate drones in that area. And then a schools forum, a churches forum, community police forum, a community safety forum can all come and do their planning there as part of the planning process, as I've explained. On the other hand, it also becomes your permanent operation center. So we invite the police. Bring your radio. We cannot command your vehicles, but you can. So bring a person and a radio. Metro Police. We can't command the Metro Police vehicles, the emergency vehicles, the fire brigades, the ambulances. You can. Come and sit here with us. We'll give you all the information. Join the team. Come and play together. Then we invite every single security company and say, come on guys, all your vehicles out there, the reactive profile, you command them. Bring a radio, come and join in this fight against crime. And then all the community initiatives, if you have a farm watch or a neighborhood watch, come and sit here. So what you are doing is you are joining the effort. You are making sure that you are strong, and that you've got one place where information is shared and where operations is shared. Now you can go further. And what you will furthermore need, and that is what we've got here in Hatfield, and that's the idea for every 15 wards, which forms one region of a city, is to have your own magistrates court. Like the Hatfield court, they've got a 94% on the same day success rate. So if one of our mobile elements catches anybody doing a first or a third tier crime, you can immediately drive off to the police station, make a statement, drive off to the court, and on the same day get an eviction done or a conviction done, so that you stop the fire when the fire is this small, and not wait for the whole thing to explode. On top of this, you can now, because there's money in this process that you're not asking for government, you're doing it yourselves, you can bring in a SWAT team. You can have a helicopter with a SWAT team if you've got cash and transit problems where criminals are coming in groups with guns. You got a team that you can pit against them, and you got your teams on the ground, and you got the E2 that works together. Then the owners of the big malls tells us that what you see, that building, only constitutes about 20% of the value. The rest is in the merchandise inside there. So if there's a fire and the fire brigade doesn't turn up, they've got a massive problem. If they have a Natal scenario, then the insurers will not cover them. So the part of the concept is to have proper big fire trucks that is in every region and centrally, well trained, ready to go to assist with emergencies, fire drills, and obviously crowd control when that is needed. So if you look at the whole safety and security concept, it is part and parcel of why we are doing it. To bring back order, to bring back structure, and therefore you're bringing these other role players to the party so that we are doing the turnaround movement. In other words, you're not only putting the lid on the pot, you're not trying to keep the lid down, you're also trying to get the coals from underneath the pot so that you have the turnaround, so that we build the country we all want to live in. And I fully believe that the good Lord has given us, each one of us, a task to do. And you now listening to this video might say, but who will do it? You do it. If you are inclined to do it, take up your role. Get the right people together. Follow the process. You will get to the right answers. The right people will be there. They are there in every city, in every town. And let's make the difference that we all want in this beautiful country. You've now listened to a concept. What now? What we really want is that people in all our towns and our cities decide what is good enough for them and start doing the right thing. You don't have to go into politics to do this. Just decide to do it. Just decide, get the right people together, get the process going, and let's start planning. And we would love to hear the best results. If you got something that we can copycat, please send it to us so that we can inform everybody else. This is working. This is working well for us. Here we've got a challenge. This is how we sorted it out. And the more good stories that comes in, the more we can heal our country and move to the real rainbow that we are all about. I'm challenging you. Come on, let's get going.